As I stand here this morning, I can't help but recall how many times the governor and I spoke about this day. He was a little bit obsessed with it. And I'll give you a few examples. He told me when I became governor a couple of things to remember, and one of them was, he said, if I die while you're governor, remember, no more than 5 minutes. So, Governor, I'm gonna keep my promise to you. He was one of my predecessors, in fact, the only one of my predecessors who used to wander into the office unannounced. Governor Byrne would show up at any time for any reason or no reason at all. And my assistant would come into my office and say, Governor Byrne is in the outer office. I'm like, okay, so I would come out to see him. Invariably, he would be standing in the same spot in the middle of the outer office of the governor, staring at his own portrait. He would, of course, first say to me, hello, and then he would say, it's the best one, isn't it? And then Governor Kane, he would invariably say to me, that damn Kane, he copied everything I did, including getting the same artist that I did. He said he did, but it's not as good as mine. Then he would say to me, to get back to today, he'd say, you know why I always start with the portrait? I said, no, Governor, I don't know why you always start with the portrait. He goes, I want to make sure you haven't moved it. I said, well, Governor, why would I move your portrait? He goes, Chris, you have to promise me that you will never move my portrait while you're here. And I said, Governor, I wouldn't move your portrait. He goes, don't put it in the dead hallway. Now, for those of you who have been to the governor's office, you know in the old outer office were all of my living predecessors. But then in the hallway, from the outer office to the main hallway, there were the people who came before, and I think by coincidence, they were all dead. So Governor Byrne said, I don't care what happens in here. Don't move me into that hallway while I'm alive. Then I will know the end is near. So I promised him I'd never move him. And as we sit here today in the new space that we occupy temporarily for the next number of years, he is with the living. And I think that's only appropriate because his life was one of extraordinary joy. Yes, there were problems and challenges and difficulties that all of us have in our lives, both in our personal lives and in our political lives. But with Governor Byrne, there was always a sense of great joy. Joy in the day that he was experiencing. And I saw this most particularly early on when I went to a meeting of the League of Municipalities when I had just been elected governor. And my old county, Morris County, had invited me to come and speak at their lunch. And so I was getting ready to stand up, and as I did, who walked into the Morris County lunch but Brendan Byrne? And he walked in literally weighed down in both arms with free giveaways. He had literally stopped at every place he could stop, and whatever they were giving away, he took. And so I had an empty seat next to me as I was getting ready to speak, and he came over. I mean, someone else was speaking. He didn't care. He walked right through the middle of the room, came right to the front of the room where I was sitting and saw an empty seat next to me and sat down next to me, and then kind of dropped all this stuff off either arm onto the floor. And I said, what is all that stuff? And he said, I have no idea, but there's got to be something good in there. And I started to laugh. He goes, wait till you're out. He said, you'll take the free stuff too. I will also tell you that as a predecessor, he was extraordinarily gracious and generous. If Brendan Byrne had a criticism, which at times he did, it was always done privately. he would pick up the phone and call, or during one of those visits to the outer office, he would tap me on the shoulder and say, "Can we go inside for a minute?" And then he would sit down and tell me whatever his critique of the moment was. And they were always thoughtful, and they were always genuine, and they were always appreciated. His compliments far outweighed his critiques, but regardless of what he was saying, I always knew that it came from the heart. One of my most fun memories was when he agreed one year to participate in my legislative correspondence dinner video. And he did that with Governor McGreevey. I didn't know what they were going to do, and they said, "You have to walk into your office. They're going to be in there. You need to be genuinely surprised. We want to catch the surprised look in your face, so we're not going to tell you what they're doing." Okay. So the thing starts, and they have me outside, and they get me to walk in, and I walk in, and what did I find? But on the conference table, the governor's conference table, was Brendan Byrne and Jim McGreevey playing ping pong. They had put a net across the middle of it, and they were playing ping pong with each other. And of course, I did have a genuinely surprised look. And when they got done with the filming of it, and I even forget what the joke was that Brendan said, but I'm sure it was a good one. At the end of it, and McGreevey will tell you this, McGreevey put it down saying, like, "Okay, we're done." And Byrne's like, no, we're finishing this game. Brendan said, "I'm winning, and I'm finishing this game with you." Our last memory of the governor was when he and Ruthie, just a few weeks ago, came to our Christmas party at Drumthwacket. And Drumthwacket was such an important place to the governor because Drumthwacket wouldn't exist without Governor Byrne. He was the person who stood up and did what needed to be done, unpopular at the time, to purchase an appropriate residence for the state's governor. And he always reveled in the changes in the place and all the rest. Mary Pat and I saw him that night for the last time. We were thrilled that he had actually come, and Ruthie, as always, by his side. And we brought him down into the music room, but there were a few steps, for those of you who know that, and he was with his walker, and he had a hard time, so a few of us kind of helped him down the stairs and back to his walker. And I was the last person to kind of help him on to get his grip again on his walker. And I said, "Governor, I'm so happy you're here. Merry Christmas. Thanks so much for coming." And he grabbed me and he said, "I'll be at the State of the State. Be good. Be good. It's your last one. Be good." And I said, "I'll do my best." And he grabbed my arm and he pulled me close to him so he could whisper. And he whispered in my ear, "You've already done your best. You did it right, kid." That's Brendan Byrne. And that generosity of spirit is what I'll miss the most. And so to Ruthie and to Tom and to the entire Byrne family, I don't need to tell you what a gem he is and was. And for me and for Mary Pat, there will be a void in our lives not being able to sit with him again and laugh. His life was a great joy not only to his family, but to everyone who had the privilege of spending some time with him.